I'd like to move on now to really think about what the Code of Practice says and what you should be doing for effective parental engagement. So I'll start with the Code of Practice. So a few headlines really. Schools should meet parents at least 3 times each year, and to quote the Code of Practice, meetings should, wherever possible, be aligned with the normal cycle of discussions with the parents of all pupils. They will, however, be longer than most parent-teacher meetings. So for you want to be thinking about how you can guard the door a bit, while still interacting very well with parents. A recent SENDCo workload survey from Bath Spa University said that meeting parents was the second most time-consuming activity for a SENDCo. This is really good in terms of parental partnership, but it does limit your ability to do the job well, working with children and staff, so it needs to be thought of in terms of the time expense. Keep parents informed. So to quote the Code of Practice again, inform parents when they are making special educational needs provision for a child. When it is decided to provide the pupil with an SEN support, the parents must be formally notified. Parents should be fully aware of the planned supports and interventions. Parents should have clear information about the impact of the support and interventions provided, and schools must provide an annual report for parents of their child's progress. Make decisions with parents. The Code of Practice says that you need to ensure that children, parents and young people are actively involved in decision making. The pupil's parents should always be involved in any decision to involve specialists. And schools should talk to parents regularly to set clear outcomes and review progress towards them. Listen to parents. Parents know their children best. Quoting the Code of Practice again, it is important that all professionals listen and understand when parents express concerns about their child's development. These early discussions with parents should be structured in such a way that they develop a good understanding of the pupil's areas of strength and difficulty. The impact and quality of the support and intervention should be evaluated along with the views of the pupil and parents. And then use parents where appropriate. To quote the Code of Practice again, plans should seek parental involvement to reinforce or contribute to progress at home. And that's talking about, for example, in an EHCP or a support plan that you might put in place. Now, as well as the Code of Practice, I actually completed my master's dissertation in this area, around what effective parental engagement looks like. So I did quite a fair bit of parent voice, got some parent surveys, and tried really to find out what's important for parents, and what the research says about effective parental engagement. So I'll try and save you some time by summarising the recommendations that I made in my dissertation. So for the first area, really being around communicating well and communicating frequently. So ensure that the basics of communication are done well. Parents must know who they should contact and how they should contact them, be that you as the SENDCo or another member of staff. Parents require written communication about targets, about interventions, about progress within those interventions, and really you should be taking a whole school approach to communication with parents of children with SEND. So the communication, it's important to parents that communication comes from the wider school staff. It shouldn't be only the SENDCo that calls up the parent of a child with SEN. They should feel that the wider school staff have an awareness that actually that parent might need a bit more communication than the child who hasn't got a special educational need. To unpick communicating frequently a little bit, parents were really saying that we need to move beyond 3 times per year. That's of course the statutory minimum, that we should have a frequently open door with opportunities for parents to meet the SENDCo at least 6 times per year. So they were pushing for half-termly, and this would be the combination of one-to-one, more formal meetings to review progress, and then more informal, perhaps group meetings or coffee mornings. And parents were really asking SENDCos to be wary of reducing communication when children are in secondary school. This typically occurs. There's much more communication in primary and less so in secondary. Parents are warning against falling into this trap. And then, considering on a case-by-case basis, which parents might need a regular phone call or a regular chance to meet above and beyond what other parents require. So really thinking, is this a parent or is this a child whose parents need a weekly update? And then who is best placed to do that? Because clearly, that can't be you as SENDCo for everyone. The broad area in terms of my recommendations from my dissertation was about moving beyond just informing parents. There are a few other areas that you can work with parents as well in. So not just informing them, actually educating and supporting parents. So put on sessions for the parents about the school curriculum, for example. Parents were very clear. They don't just want to know about SEN. Actually, they want to know what every other parent wants to know. They just might need to know a little bit more, because they might not get that information from their child themselves, depending on how that child communicates. So provide sessions for parents about the school curriculum, and then also about their child's special educational need. So about dyslexic needs, and what dyslexia looks like, and how we might support it in school, for example. This should include opportunities for the parents to network with one another, sharing their experiences about what it's like to be a parent of a child with needs in a particular area. Consider the parents' feelings here, which may or may not be negative towards their child's SEND, but it's worth taking into account. So, communication with parents, particularly around the beginning of a process that involves the child going on the SEND register, should be particularly thoughtful, and can be a particularly sensitive area, and it should be conducted in person where possible. The parents I interviewed were clear. Don't have those difficult conversations on the phone. Don't put a letter through the door saying your child might have autism. Actually think about which types of communication need to be dealt with particularly sensitively. The next recommendation that came out of my dissertation was really around using parents. So interventions that take place in school can be further supported at home. And often parents are really willing to know what they can do at home to support those. And it can be just having a particular type of conversation with their child over the dinner table, for example, or on the bus on the way to school. So whenever parents are being informed about an intervention or target that's taking place in school, or a target that's being worked towards in school, be explicit with ideas about how that might be supported at home. And then get parental input on the advice that's given to all teachers about how to meet their child's needs. This is how you might use parents, by thinking about, well, actually, what does the parent really think helps their child? And let's have that voice represented on the one-page summary of need that goes out to all that child's teachers. You might even bring the parent in on some cases, to meet with all the child's teachers, to give that really personal perspective by using the parent's knowledge of the child to help the school to understand the child more fully, and therefore to better meet the need. And the last little recommendation from my dissertation was around co-producing with parents. So consult with parents when changes are being made or proposed to provision. If you are going to start resourcing a really different area of SEN or taking resources away from a particular area, co-produce with parents. So speak to parents about what that should look like or what their opinions are, and learn from parents about whether they believe those changes should be made. That may involve establishing an SEND parent group that meets regularly, as well as, of course, having SEND parents representation at the schools or MAT governors level. But I think it's important to have the governors and governance level, but also to have something that's a bit more informal. That helps you to shape provision in a more ongoing way, perhaps.